Good evening. You are watching News Mongolian MNB World. I'm Jugdur Rambold. And for our top stories. The 7th meeting of the U.S.-Mongolia Trade and Investment Council convened. The Democratic Party's National Policy Committee convened. About 80% of students who graduated in the region work in their provinces and soums. For the news, stay tuned. On Tuesday, the United States and Mongolia convened the 7th meeting of the U.S.-Mongolia Trade and Investment Council, established under the U.S.-Mongolia Trade and Investment Framework Agreement. Discussions took place regarding opportunities for deepening bilateral trade and investment ties between the two countries. The meeting was co-chaired by Terry McCarthy, Assistant U.S. Trade Representative, and Samboyang Amersahan, Deputy Prime Minister of Mongolia.
During the meeting, the United States and Mongolia welcomed the 36th anniversary of diplomatic relations between the two countries. They also referenced the joint statement on the strategic Third Neighbor Partnership between the United States of America and Mongolia, which was issued earlier this month after Vice President Kamala Harris welcomed Prime Minister Oyerton Lofsnamsra to Washington, D.C., as well as the economic cooperation roadmap for the strategic Third Neighbor Partnership between the governments of Mongolia and the United States of America. The two sides discussed boosting investment, especially in strategically important sectors, and the U.S. side, as well as other foreign investors, expressed the need for creating a business-friendly environment in Mongolia. There are several important sectors where there are opportunities of cooperation between the USA and Mongolia, such as renewable energy, information technology, agriculture, digital development, and governance. The United States and Mongolia highlighted the positive role that Trade and Investment Council discussions can play in supporting Mongolia's efforts to foster its economic development and a prosperous market-based economy. They also discussed a range of bilateral trade and investment issues, including transparency, good regulatory practices, the investment climate, intellectual property rights protection and enforcement, economic diversification, regional initiatives, as well as trade promotion. The U.S.-Mongolia Trade and Investment Council was established pursuant to the Trade and Investment Framework Agreement, or TIFA, signed by the United States and Mongolia in 2004. It is the primary mechanism for trade and investment discussions between two countries. Total bilateral trade in goods was $175 million in 2022. U.S. goods exports to Mongolia in 2022 were $149 million, up 0.2% from 2021, but down 78% from 2012. Imports of goods from Mongolia into the USA were $26.4 million in 2022, a 365% increase from 2021.
The National Policy Committee of the Democratic Party convened on August 28th, with attendance from 76% of its members. During the meeting, Democratic Party members discussed the full rights of its members and regulations on party elections and appointments. The committee also voted for its deputy head and second deputy heads.
For the last couple of years, the Democratic Party of Mongolia has been criticized for failing to be a strong opposition party. During the convention, party members said they expected tangible outcomes from the meeting.
We will adopt a new party structure and hope to make appointments that meet the values and core principles of the Democratic Party, as well as the public's demands and expectations. We expect the appointment of people who value the core principles of democracy and unity. I just want to say that someone who's not involved in corruption and is accepted in society should become the Secretary General of the Democratic Party.
During his speech, the chairman of Democratic Party, Kantomor, noted that the party would take part in the upcoming election with strategies showcasing the party's unity and values.
In a bid to bridge the healthcare gap between urban centers and rural communities, the National University of Medical Sciences in Qabalta province plays a crucial role, as approximately 80% of fresh graduates OPT to work within their provinces and soums. The institution's commitment to nurturing skilled medical professionals for underserved regions remains steadfast.
Soumya, who decided to become a nurse while in 6th grade, will study the profession of her choice this year. She traveled about 1,000 kilometers from Ovs province's Soums to study at the branch of the National University of Medical Sciences in Gobi Alta province. As for Tilma, she came from Mongolian of Hoft province to study at the same medical school. She was talking about how she decided to study at the National University of Medical Sciences in Alta city because of the high concentration in Ulaanbaatar and the higher cost.
My sister graduated from the school. I researched schools for about 2 years. Before coming here, I thought it would be a small school, but it certainly isn't. It is a big school. My brothers and sisters have graduated from here, and they have become skilled doctors. Most of the doctors of our Mongolian graduated from the school. I think that I will go and work in my soum in the future. I also think about establishing a pharmacy in Mongolian in the future.
About 80% of all graduates of Gobi Alta University of Medical Sciences stay and work in their communities. Also, because they train and produce skilled specialists, many job offers are received from the state hospitals. However, the director of the branch school said that the students who went to the capital do not always come to their hometowns. Every year, about 50 children from one province enroll in the National University of Medical Sciences in the capital city, but less than 10% of them work in the rural areas.
While there is a surplus of doctors in Ulaanbaatar, there is a severe shortage of medical professionals and nurses in rural areas. About 2,000 doctors are graduating every year, but they are not coming to rural areas, so there is an acute shortage in rural areas. We just cannot train enough doctors.
About 85% of the doctors and specialists of the provincial general hospitals are graduates of Alta Medical University. Most of them have become skilled doctors who have worked here for many years. Also, students from remote areas such as Bayulgi, Ovs, Hoft, as well as students from the central region, especially from Ulaanbaatar city, are coming here. The director of the school emphasized that this is important for healthcare services of the western provinces and the reduction of health issues among the population.
Now please take a look at currency exchange rates provided by the Mongol Bank. Now here comes foreign news partnered with international news agencies. Secretary of Commerce Gina Raimondo reiterated that the U.S. does not seek to decouple with China during her meeting with Premier Li Qiang in Beijing on Tuesday. Hosting Raimondo at the Great Hall of the People on Tuesday afternoon, Li, China's number 2 leader, said a healthy trade and economic relationship between the two countries would be conducive for both sides and the world.
Raimondo met with Commerce Minister Wang Wentao a day earlier and said they agreed during a 4-hour meeting to launch an information exchange on export controls. She said they also will set up a working group of officials and private sector representatives to seek solutions on trade and investment issues.
The Biden administration will send an additional $250 million in weapons and ammunition to Ukraine as part of its ongoing support for Kyiv's counteroffensive. The weapons will be drawn from existing U.S. stockpiles, officials said on Tuesday. They will include mine-clearing equipment, artillery and rocket rounds, ambulances, medical gear, and other items and spare parts.
The U.S. would have already run out of funding for the year to provide additional stockpile equipment to Ukraine. However, earlier this year, they realized that the Pentagon had overvalued the equipment it had already sent. This realization freed up an additional $6.2 billion in funding.
Florida National Guard have been fully activated under state active duty with a mobilization of over 3,000 guardsmen in position across the state for preparedness and response efforts. An additional 1,800 guardsmen are on their way, bringing the total to 5,500 prior to the storm landing. The department stands ready to assist the state of Florida, FEMA, and state and local officials in any recovery efforts that are needed.
Ukraine has already received more than $43 billion from the U.S. since Russia invaded last year. These funds have been used to provide weapon systems such as howitzers and millions of rounds of ammunition, enabling Ukraine to resist the much larger Russian military. However, due to the intense and protracted land war, now in its 18th month, a significant portion of the ammunition and weaponry has already been depleted.
I think this is a storm that we are certainly taking seriously, the state of Florida is taking seriously in terms of not only making sure that we have the appropriate number of people in the state of Florida to help with any response that's needed, but also pre-positioning any assets or any forces that might be needed in the aftermath of the storm.
Singh also spoke about how the Defense Department is readying for the approaching Hurricane Idalia in Florida. Idalia was churning in the Gulf of Mexico as a Category 1 storm, but it was projected to come ashore early Wednesday as a Category 3 system with sustained winds up to 120 miles per hour. The most likely location for the landfall is in the lightly populated Big Bend region, where the Florida Panhandle bends into the peninsula.
Please look at weather forecasts for the world's major cities. Well, that's all for today. Thank you for staying tuned. We'll see you next time with more news and updates. Have a good day.